Just a reminder that our dairy conferences are on this week on Wednesday the 26th in the Talbot Hotel in Clonmel and on Thursday the 27th in the Kilmore Hotel in Cavan. So check out the website for more information.
The partnership is great for me. You know, it was kind of my father's idea. He wanted the idea of me to be kind of working for myself rather than working for him. And we kind of look at it that anything I do now is kind of building for my own future, which would motivate me and drive me on to nearly work a bit harder rather than if I was just working for him, you know.
Following on from previous podcasts with both Ruth Fennell and Conor Hogan, and indeed as mentioned by Joe Patton on last week's podcast, this week we have an example of generational renewal in action. Edmund Motherway from Ladysbridge near Midleton in County Cork joins me as the winner of the student section in the Sustainable Grassland Farmer of the Year competition, having just graduated from Kildalton Ag College last week. Edmund is now farming in partnership with his father Padraig and is going to talk to me today about how he has, along with the help of his family and some very educational farm placements, started his career in dairy farming. I started by asking Edmund to tell me where the love and interest for farming came from.
I always loved farming from the very minute I could walk. I would have been outside calves with my grandfather and all the usual small jobs. I went to school in National School in Kilcridden National School, went on then to Midleton CBS for secondary school, and eventually went to Kildalton College. We started milking at home in 2018. Loved the milking, but we've kind of a small farm at the time, and we were milking 50 cows. So I suppose I couldn't really see a full-time viable future there unless we expanded a bit. In TY then, I went over to Dick and Owen O'Neill and Warren Farm just to see dairy at a bit of scale. And once I did see dairy at kind of a bigger scale, I really kind of thought I could see a proper future for myself there. I loved all about it, just everything really, just the big tractors and the big milking bar and the big block ground. I just loved all of it and decided that's what I wanted to do. So I decided then that when I was finishing college I wanted to expand a bit to farm at home so I could go dairy farming full time. Second half of my TY work experience then I went driving tractors for James Kennefick in Balmacoda. Would have done a lot of mowing and baling and slurry for him and really got a love for tractor work, and ever since I came home I kind of pushed the tractor work a bit, I suppose, and we do a lot of our own now.
So just take me back a second now, Edmund will say. So initially when you went down to Dick, you would have felt that home wasn't going to be big enough for you to go farming, but they had obviously the experience of being in a partnership with their neighbour as well, and that's how they had expanded in the first place. You said there when we were talking earlier that Dick actually started out with a handy number of cows as well, and has built it up to a fairly sizable herd now, obviously. So that was really the kind of the seminal moment for you in terms of deciding that you wanted to go farming as a career.
I always kind of wanted to go farming, but I suppose I wouldn't have been able to see how I could have made it happen. But talking to Dick then and seeing how they had done it through the years and how they'd gone up in the numbers, really gave me thought that, why couldn't I do the same? And that's what we're trying to do at the moment, is try and get up the scale a bit, and it seems to be going okay so far in it.
Very good. So I suppose explain to the listeners then, we'll say what you said you started in 18, explain how that started, what kind of numbers you've had and the progression over the last number of years or so.
Yeah, sure. We started milking in 2018, so in 2000 we would have been dry stock before that. In 2017 then we bought 50 maiden heifers. We picked the maiden heifers, they were kind of bought for kilos milk solids. That was our main thing. We went out buying them. Started milking in 2018. It was a brutal spring and a brutal summer. We had a lot of very good heifers that would have been doing great milk and great solids, but some of them didn't go on calf because in our first few years, I suppose, down to lack of experience really, we just weren't feeding enough, either grass or concentrate, they just weren't getting enough, they weren't happy. And some of the very good ones didn't go on calf. But ever since we've started feeding more and our fertility has improved, usually a bit of somewhere between 5 and 10% empty, which we'd be quite happy with. We're feeding a lot more in the spring to make that happen, and because of our good fertility then we're able to cull out maybe five of the worst cows every year, which we see is making a big impact on the overall herd. It is improving.
So explain then as well, we'll say you said that initially when you went down in TY to the O'Neills that you didn't have the scale at home effectively. how have you actually managed to put some scale there that has allowed you to go home, which is just at the start of this year, you've joined your father Padraig at home and you're gone into partnership together. So what's facilitating that to happen in terms of access to land, etc.?
Yeah, I suppose we were milking 50 cows at home on kind of 45 acres, and in 2021 then we took another block kind of down the road of 45 acres, so we expanded then to 60 cows, and we were working away at 60 cows until this year when I was coming home from college. My uncle had been milking cows but decided to retire at the end of last year and gave us the opportunity to lease another 60 acres. Not bouncy us, but we were able to make silage there. So the plan was to go up to maybe 70 or 80 cows and see how that was going to go. But then we were approached by another neighbour who had 35 acres very close to us, only kind of 2 fields away from us. So we took that on as well and reseeded the whole lot of it and went up to 90 cows with the view of bringing grass in and taking slurry out just to try and get up to numbers, which we've done this year. We made a lot of silage. We fed over 600 bales during the summer. The cows ran kind of 3 bales a day. We bring them in at 12 o'clock every day and keep them in till after milking. They don't go back out till around 6. They eat 3 bales and they're on 6 kilos ration every day, just to make up for the deficit and the fact that we don't have enough grass for what cows we have. They milk quite well in it, but we found that we weren't getting the same kick out of the silage and ration as we would have been out of grass, and we reseeded everything that we leased this year, so we have lots of good grass around. So in October we tried a bit of zero grazing. On the 1st of October the cows were back to milking around 16 litres a day, which we weren't happy with at the time, and within a week of starting zero grazing they were back up to 20 litres, which they held between 19 and 20 litres without dropping in the solids, kind of 5.5 and 4.2 through October. It worked so well that we actually decided we were going to purchase a zero grazer just to make best use of the grass around and try and cut down on the labour intensiveness of the silage. We kind of said to make a bale of silage you must travel the field 6 to 7 times between mowing it and tedding it and raking it and baling it and wrap it and dry it and stacking it. Whereas with the zero grazer we were saying, you just have to travel it once just to get your grass in for the cows. So we're hoping now that next year we'll be able to up the milk and up the solids and feed less ration.
But I think a big an important point from what we were discussing before we started the podcast was that your attention to detail around grassland management is high. So like the kick that came from actually getting the grass into the cows through the zero grazer was because of the quality of the grass that you were grazing, or through the zero grazer. And the other thing is, as you mentioned there, the reseeding. So you took on a lot of land last year, probably, am I right in thinking 90 acres nearly
90
in total?
acres, yeah.
And you reseeded all of that?
We reseeded around 65 out of that,
so
yeah.
2/3 of it in one go, like
yeah,
so,
we'll
yeah.
probably get around to the rest of it maybe next year, the year after.
Yeah, and the rationale for that, I suppose, down your neck of the woods now, land doesn't come cheap, I'm sure. I'm not going to ask you how much you're paying for it, but there's a nice price to pay, I'm sure, anyway, for the rental alone, and that can be off-putting for people in terms of taking on the cost of reseeding straight away then as well, because you're obviously paying for this land and next thing is lying there for, again, in your neck of the woods, it could be 12 weeks because of dry spells and so forth like that. So just explain your rationale for doing the tackling the reseeding straight away, going at it
Yeah, well, I suppose the price of rent is dear, it is a big cost, but we said that we kind of had to do it, and once we did rent it, there's no point in having, bad grass. So we said once we were taking it, we may as well reseed it all and get the best value out of the ground we could. So we decided to go reseeding there this year, and we did, the farm we took was an old dairy farm, would have been a lot of small paddocks. So we wanted to make big fields out of it for making silage. So we took down all the wires and we did a full reseed. We ploughed it, power harrowed it, disked it, land levelled it, rolled it. We used kind of a clover mix with for grazing and cutting silage, and it was very slow year for the grass seeds. We found the clover really came strong, which was great in that we made great quality silage out of the clover, and the cows are milking quite well in it since they came in. But we found that it was quite hard to graze animals. We had a bit of bother with bloat in the autumn, But it was also an opportunity, I suppose, to get the P&K indexes up, so we were able to spread a bit of 18-6-12 and can on the reseeding ground, and it got a lot of lime as well, just to make the pH right, and hopefully after reseeding it, now that the ground should be right for a good number of years, and hopefully we won't have to spend too much on it. Our big spending is done now for the next couple of years.
And did you have to do much lime? Because again, knowing that area, there's pockets of it that don't need any lime at all down there because of high pH naturally.
It was okay. Some of the ground had to get 3 tons to the acre, more of it only had to get 2, and everything's now right. We're quite happy with where it's at now.
So I suppose if we take it on a little bit further then, in terms of your future plans, we'll say, so obviously you've decided to go down the route of the zero grazing in order to try to get numbers up in a way, really, and you're kind of constantly on the lookout. So I suppose if anybody down there in Ballymacota is looking for someone to take a bit of ground, you're a potential candidate for it. But you're looking to, like, your long-term plan is to try and get to a full grazing system potentially.
Sure it is, like, what we're at the moment isn't ideal, like, it works away, but, like...
and it works because the two of you are there.
It works, the two of us are at home, like, it is, the fragmented farm is very labour intensive, like, you know, we're the whole time drawing bales or drawing slurry or drawing cattle. It works away, but what we're trying to do, I suppose, is we're always open to an opportunity, and we're kind of trying to make a bit of profit and expand our cow numbers. So if there was ever an opportunity came up for either to extend our own grazing block or move to another grazing block somewhere else, that we would have a herd of cows and a bit of finance to do it. So that's kind of our thinking with our expansion and what we're doing at the moment. Very good.
And what way do you work day to day now at the moment, the fact that the two of you are there now?
Yeah, sure, I suppose kind of since the winter came, we get up every morning. I do the milking, my father does the cubicles, and we've young stocked in at a different farm, and he goes over and checks them while I be doing kind of the feeding, the dry cow cubicles at home. And we've had a lot of kind of bringing in cattle and stuff there recently, so we've been at that, and just kind of day-to-day jobs really. We've bales at an out farm, so we're drawing them home a lot, and all our straw is stored in an out farm, so we're drawing them back the whole time. And the day seems to pass away every day. Anyway, there's always a couple of jobs to do, and then once it gets to kind of 4:30 in the evening, we start back into I milk the cows again. My father does the cubicles and just shove in the silage, and we've a couple of calves around from our autumn calvers as well at the moment, so they must be fed and minded, and this time of year it isn't too bad. I suppose during the summer it's kind of nearly a role reversal. My father does nearly all the milking, and I kind of allocate the grass and spread the fertiliser and the slurry, and he kind of looks after the cattle, and I kind of look after the machinery work, and we work it that way.
Okay, and you were saying that the allocation is a very important piece there. You said it about the initial years in the cows that you made mistakes around that, like we'll say, but you're very keen to get that right from the point of view of the silage or the zero grazing potentially now for the coming year, coming back in to get those quantities correct to make sure that you get the good graze out, but also get the value for what you're zero grazing in or what meal you're bringing into, like, or putting in.
Yeah, like we're stocked very high, so they are getting buffer fed the whole time and getting a nice share meal. So I suppose the big focus going out, we need them to give them we need to balance it right, because it's very easy that if you give them too little, you know, they'll go down to milk and they mightn't hold their calf, but if you give them too much, then they won't graze it out, and you're wasting feed that we don't have, and you'll nearly go around the block too quick then and end up with nothing. So it's just a matter of going out every morning and judging your cover and judging where to put your wire, and just balance it up then inside with your, either give them an extra kilo ration or an extra bale of silage depending on weather conditions really.
So you're watching that growth demand curve the whole time basically, and where they're lending with one another to try to hold your rotation on the home block. Yeah, trying
to hold it, like with this summer it seemed to happen that like we seemed to go down to nothing an awful lot, and next thing it'd all come back together and we'd nearly have too much and we'd be trying to get through grass then.
So you were making an interesting point earlier as well about the comparison of grass versus tillage ground or spring barley or whatever way you want to look at it.
Yeah, like it's not to say the tillage men have it easy or anything like, but barley or beet or anything, if you're growing it, is one harvest a year, whereas every grazing or cutting of silage is a harvest. Like if you graze a field 10 times in a year, that's nearly 10 harvests and 10 growing seasons that you must manage. Like you must grow the crop 10 times in a year rather than just once.
It's quite clear from our early conversation that the O'Neills have had an influence in you in terms of the direction that you took, but your placements from Kildalton as well, they've had influence on you as well. So just tell us, where did you go for those, and kind of what did you pick up from each of those farms? And they're slightly different as well, both farms.
They're very different, yeah. I was very lucky. I got two very good farmers. I went down to Connor and Philip Bazang in Grange in Watford in first year for 8 weeks in March and April. It was spring 24. It was an awful year. When I went down first, cows had hardly been out, which would be unheard of. Usually they would be straight out after calving, but it was a sign of, anyone can manage a farm of a good year, but the wet year, it was really stood to them. Like we still had cows out most days down there if we could at all, and we were doing a lot of on-off grazing, just leave them out for 2 or 3 hours in the morning and use back grazing and spur roadways and everything just to get them out for some piece of the day. So that would have been my first spring really trying to manage a farm or help to manage a farm where weather conditions were very, very poor, and would have brought home a lot of it. We wouldn't have ever back grazed at home really before, and brought home a lot of it, which was very handy that year, especially just kind of learning things about managing grass for a wet year. And
obviously you'd have a similar land type that you no problem to turn out and graze most years, but 2024 caught the most.
2024
the driest of the farms found it hard.
Yeah, but Connor exceptionally well, got the cows out every single day, even when we wouldn't have dreamed of trying to put them out. He was getting out, and it stood to him, and that the cows really got their peak once the weather kind of got right. They were getting grass in every day, and it kept the milk up. And I suppose in second year then I ended up to Dennis O'Brien and his father Dennis as well, which was completely different system. The high yielding Holstein cows, huge emphasis on breeding and feeding and keeping cows right, which I would have learned an awful lot about dealing with cows and how to feed cows correctly to get the most out of them, and really did enjoy it. And just especially Dennis's father, also Dennis, he's a huge knowledge of breeding cows, and both of them, they helped me pick out my AI bulls this year and really know how to read the indexes in the AI book, and they just have brilliant stock. To diet feeding as well, it really helps to get the most out of the cows and what they're feeding cows. It's just amazing to see. It's a totally different system than anything I'd ever seen, so I was delighted I got that opportunity to go up there.
Very good. I suppose what's the future plans then for Edmund Motherway? I suppose you've come a long way in a very short space of time, to be fair to you. Sure, you're just finished in Kildalton effectively,
Yeah.
And you're gone into partnership and you've upped the numbers straight away. And obviously this is a great benefit to you to have. Well, people saw it in you that there was a talent there. So what are you going to do to take advantage of that talent into the future?
Yeah, well, I suppose my father would have given me a great start. We have good facilities and good cows and everything at home, so I have a great starting point to start out at. And I suppose we're quite happy with what we're doing at the moment, but at the same time we're always just looking out for the next opportunity just to try and grow a small bit and become more profitable and just expand further. That's kind of what we're trying to do. So whether it be leasing a bigger farm, or whether it be extending what we have, or whether it should be something totally different, we're not entirely sure, but we're just the whole time looking for the next thing and trying to do everything as best we can. Really is our big thing.
So you're very open-minded, in fairness to you. I suppose from your perspective as a young farmer starting out on your career in farming, what kind of things do you find as being maybe slight obstacles, or things that you feel that maybe if the department could wave the magic wand and grant them to you, that you know obviously you're in a position where you'd like to be getting things, as you said there earlier, when you're under 35, and then once you go over 35 you're not too worried about it, but you have a long way to go to 35 at the same time. So what would you what are the challenges that you see as a young farmer, and maybe what we'll say are there opportunities for the department maybe to look after the younger farmer? There's big talk about generation renewal, how to encourage people back. You're an example of someone that has grasped the nettle basically without any major incentives maybe to go about it. So just what's your thoughts in that area?
Yeah, well, I suppose the main thing really would just be that as a young farmer trying to lease a farm or trying to get going or trying to expand, I or any other young farmer would have no major advantage over anyone else, say, that would be older than me, and it's just a thing that could be brought in, maybe some incentive for a landowner to lease to a young farmer, or, you know, just give him a chance nearly, like, over someone else, because generational renewal is a big problem, but everyone's kind of saying it, but no one seems to be doing a crazy amount to incentivise the young farmer to get in or to expand. I know that only for my father setting me up like he has, I would have no hope of getting into dairy farming had we not been. It's just, I don't even really know how
you would go about it. Like,
you would go about it, but there has to be some way of trying to get more young people into the industry, and for those in the industry, helping them to expand and push on.
So there are some positives, you were saying, like we'll say the Thames and so forth, but there are kind of weaknesses in that maybe too.
Yeah, sure, like the Thames is great, but, you know, there's a lot of the reference costs aren't accurate to the actual cost of buying the thing or building the thing. Like, hopefully going forward, a 40% grant on a shade or a slurry tank or something would actually be a 40% of the actual cost rather than the reference cost, which could make it a 30% grant or a 25% grant. You know, that it is hard. If it was the actual 40%, it would make it a lot easier to buy or to expand or to push on or build that shed or whatever you want to do.
But I suppose you were lucky though in the sense of some of the land that you rented was naked land, as they call it, and you were able to get entitlements as part of the Young Farmer Scheme on that, like.
Yeah, because we set up this partnership, I was able to claim off the National Reserve and get a few of my own entitlements, which was hugely positive, and to be a nice bit of extra money, you know, for the young farmer to help us fund all of it, I suppose. The partnership is great for me. You know, it was kind of my father's idea. He wanted the idea of me to be kind of working for myself rather than working for him. And we kind of look at it that anything I do now is kind of building for my own future, which would motivate me and drive me on to nearly work a bit harder rather than if I was just working for him, you know.
Yeah, definitely. There's a great logic in fairness, and credit to your father for having the vision to do that too, to be fair to him. So looking for opportunities anyway, wherever they are, well, within reason, I suppose. We presume you're not going to go travelling for miles and miles, but
sure, never say never.
Never say never. Okay, so thanks for joining us on this week's show, Edmund, and the best of luck to you in the future.
Yeah, thanks very much.
That's all for this week's episode of the Dairy Age podcast, and my thanks to Edmund Motherway for joining me on this week's show. Don't forget the Dairy Conference this week on Wednesday in the Talbot Hotel, Clonmel, and on Thursday in the Kilmore Hotel in Cavan. So check that out on the Teagasc website. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to our podcast. You can also listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify, and for more information go to the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie. I'm Stuart Childs, and join us next time for your Dairy Edge.